Good morning. How are you? So, I'm going to be honest with you. 7 years ago, I was facing what I thought was an unsolvable problem. I had a smile on my face. By society standards, I was successful. If you asked me how I was doing, I would have said, I'm good. But the truth is, I wasn't good. I was crumbling under astronomical amounts of stress. Stress that I think we all can relate to, trying to navigate these day-to-day responsibilities of life in this fast, ever-pacing culture. But also a more chronic and persistent type of stress that Black women experience, this accumulation of stress in trying to thrive, but in an unjust system of racism and sexism. And so emotionally, I was exhausted. Physically, I actually got sick. Discouraged and disappointed, I was losing hope. So then your question might be, Nicole, why didn't you ask for help? That was my problem. Because you see, as a Black woman, I wasn't sure if A, I would be believed, let alone understood. And then B, if me asking for help meant that I would jeopardize my hopes and dreams and everything I worked so hard for. So I stayed silent. And I come to find out that my train of thought, unfortunately, is not uncommon for a lot of Black women. There's more research looking at the stress and the impacts that it has on Black women. A study out of Johns Hopkins found when you look at racial disparities in mental health, women experienced anxiety and depression at twice the rate of men. But contrary to white women, Black women are half less likely to seek help. A study out of the CDC found Black women are going to have typically a 3-year shortage in their life expectancy compared to white women. And when you look at some of the root causes of that, it can be contributed to stress. But still, I thought I was different. I thought if I worked harder, all I have to do is be perfect, then I'll be protected. Be magical, then you'll be seen. Be invaluable, then I'll value you. So I kept trying. And I kept smiling that smile that doesn't quite reach your eyes. And I continued to suffer in silence. That was until my family decided to stage an intervention. And they came to visit me with my auntie in tow. And my auntie came because she's also a public health expert, and she knew that support systems are proven to be effective in improving the health and well-being of women. She also knew, as a Black woman, that Black female support groups have needed to exist in America for as long as Black women have. The last place you need to be when you're in a low place is by yourself, she said to me. And then with deep care and concern, she started to share stories. Stories that started to sound eerily familiar to what I was going through. And the more she began to talk, the more I started to feel affirmed, validated. What I didn't realize what was happening is that she and other Black women in my life were creating or planting seeds of hope. Hope that would eventually encourage me to reimagine an even bolder and more audacious vision for myself and my health, but also as a social entrepreneur, bolder and more audacious vision for the health and well-being of Black women today and for generations to come. And it was primarily through a lot of different advice, but I want to share 3 key lessons I've learned being in community with aunties. The power of connection, correction, and collaboration. But before I go any further, it's very important that I talk to you about the historical and cultural legacy of the Black auntie, because she has a very unique significance here in the United States. Now, first, if you ask someone in the Black community to define an auntie, chances are it's going to be much broader than just a biological relationship. They could be an older or more experienced sister, friend, cousin, coworker, church mother. I mean, honestly, you really don't even have to know them to consider them an auntie. But it's the fact that they provide you with emotional and social support. And so I remember having a conversation with Dr. Regina Davis Sowers. She's a researcher who studies the lives of Black aunties. And she would explain to me, this is defined as a fictive kinship. They don't have to be biological or legal to be considered family. And this network is an enduring quality in Black communities. And she explained to me that it goes way back, all the way to culture in West Africa. And she would explain there, a child is every woman's child, not just the mother. And it was that cultural value that would protect Black communities who were brought and enslaved here in the United States during one of the darkest moments in our nation's history. According to the Economic Justice Institute, between the years of 1735 and 1865, half of enslaved people were separated from their spouses and their parents. 1 out of 4 sold were children. So imagine being a mother, a father, a daughter, a son, a child, and you're separated from your family. Imagine being a child and being forced to endure and navigate this cruel and unjust system of slavery and having to do it alone. And yet these women, holding on to their cultural legacy from West Africa, decided every child, I don't even have to know this child, is mine. They decided, I am going to keep this child safe. I am going to pass down wisdom and knowledge. I am going to guide them to and through the ups and downs of life. And these children will go on to call these women their aunties. So when Dr. Sowers told me this story, you can imagine I was overwhelmed. I got chills. And I also experienced a deep sense of pride that for over 400 years, generations of Black women, aunties, have been working to preserve and protect the health and well-being of Black communities at large and Black women more specifically. And so it was this really cultural legacy of the auntie that inspired me as someone who is deeply committed to addressing racial disparities to create the platform Hey Auntie, which is a digital platform and community that connects Black women across ages and life stages to learn the rules, gain the tools, and deepen the networks to thrive at home, work, and everywhere in between. And I also think it's the cultural legacy of the auntie that can inspire all of us as we think about how we want to live a healthier life for ourselves, but also empower those around us. And so I want to share 3 stories, or 3 lessons matter, that I've learned in community with aunties. The first one is if you live and fall alone, you will stumble and fall alone. But when you stumble in community, when you stumble in connection to others, it alerts them that you need help and support to get back up. When my auntie told me the last place you need to be is by yourself when you're in a low place, I'm going to be honest, I didn't fully understand what she was saying. Because honestly, I already had a close family and friends. So I thought I was fine. But what I didn't realize is I was kind of caught up in this glorified culture of busyness. You know, pack your schedule with a 28-hour day. I also was caught up in what I didn't know, which was the superwoman syndrome that a lot of Black women experience. So I have to be perfect, I have to do it all, and I can't take any time for myself. What I didn't realize with both of these mindsets is in deprioritized connections. So what I ended up doing is treating connections more like a luxury and not a lifeline. I didn't realize in deprioritizing connections that I was forfeiting what generations before us knew, that you don't just need connections to survive, but to thrive. So little by little, I started to reach out and to connect more with my family and my friends, therapists in my church, And also this growing community of Black women who are just a little bit older than me, or in some instances, they had a lot more life than me. But I found in all of these communities, I was feeling seen. I was feeling heard. I was feeling less alone. Which lead me to the second thing I had to learn from Aunties, is that correction accelerates your growth and maturity, both which are necessary to reach your full potential. What I had to learn is that Aunties' jobs are not just to tell you what you want to hear, which sometimes could be an encouraging word, but they also have to tell you what you need to hear. And what I realize, especially in the day and age we live in, it's very easy to be in an echo chamber with everyone telling you the same thing. It is really a priceless gift to have people in your community who love you so much that they will even tell you the truth. What I found with Aunties is a lot of them have climbed the same mountains that I have. They've broken barriers, they've shattered ceilings, but they've also told me they've missed opportunities. They've made mistakes. They've shed lots of tears. Some Aunties have even told me, Nicole, don't follow my footsteps, just use it as a guide. And I find it because Aunties tend to have an even bolder vision for you than sometimes even you can. And what they do not want is for you to get caught up in the same obstacles. So for me, while I would have conversations with Aunties and they would listen and I would listen to them, and oftentimes they would affirm what I was going through because oftentimes they went through the same thing. They always were insistent that even though what I was experiencing was valid and real, they would never allow my mind to accept defeat. They would constantly remind me, Nicole, though you might feel powerless, you are powerful. They would say, you always have the choice to believe all things are possible to those who believe. They would tell me, you operate from approval, not for approval. From acceptance, not for acceptance. Keep this in the forefront of your mind. Walk in it and act accordingly. Now, I'm not going to say getting that type of advice all the time is easy. I'm not going to say sometimes there isn't disagreement. There should be in diverse perspectives. And I'm not even going to say that all advice is the right advice. But what I do know is that I believe what Auntie in my head, Dr. Maya Angelou said, which is I have learned I have a lot left to learn. So by moving through life open to feedback and correction, I find that it has taken me to spaces and places that I never could have before imagined. Which leads me to the final lesson. I did ultimately something I never thought I would do. After being in connection with Aunties, after receiving correction from Aunties, I came home and I started all over again. But this time I realized I want to do life with these women. I realized that it was just as important as when you're getting poured into to do the pouring. That you want to have people in your squad, but people need to know that you're in theirs. That reaching your goals matter, but helping others, whether 19 or 91, reach theirs, that's what changes the world. So I went back to my community and did a small, what I thought, documentary, capturing my auntie and my mom's stories, and I just shared it. That ended up opening up doors for me to create programs to encourage women across ages and life stages across the country. I ended up as a social impact entrepreneur, working with vision and mission aligned companies, getting behind their vision, helping them reach their goals in the communities that they serve. It looked like going back to my childhood YMCA and becoming a strength trainer instructor for a multi-generational group of folks ranging from their 20s to their 70s. And I believe it is the power of this multi-generational collaborative community that is the reason why I was able to win a social impact accelerator in Philadelphia called the Well City Challenge. Why do I share this with you? Because it's my last lesson I've learned from Aunties. If you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you go together. It's been 7 years since my auntie gave me that advice, and my life has changed in ways I couldn't have imagined. But there's one more big milestone that happened in those 7 years that I have not yet mentioned to you. And it was the birth of my nephew, EJ. I remember when my sister called me to tell me she was pregnant. Instantly, a love overwhelmed me that I didn't know was possible. And just like the legacy of aunties I come from, I instantly decided I will do whatever I can to keep them safe. I will pass down wisdom and knowledge, and I will walk alongside him as he goes to and through the up and down the journeys of life. And I've tried my best to do that over the past 6 years. Well, earlier this week, I was talking to my sister about this here talk. And I guess my nephew could hear in my voice. I was a little nervous and anxious, maybe a little bit discouraged. And he instantly says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, Auntie Coley." That's what he calls me. "What do we talk about?" Now, my nephew, he is 6, so we talk a lot about toys or, who has the best chicken fingers and french fries. So I wasn't quite sure where he was going with this line of thinking. I said, "EJ, what do we talk about?" To which he said to me, "Never give up. Try your best. Be yourself." I never thought connecting, correcting, and collaborating with my 6-year-old nephew would produce the advice that I needed as I stand before you here today. But then as I think and reflect on the generation of aunties that I come from, the shoulders that I stand for on, many known and many more unknown, I can't help but think what a full circle moment this is. And a full circle moment indeed. Thank you.